Author's Press.
Hey, it's Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. And on the line with us today, we have Simon Gelman. We'll be discussing his wonderful book, What I Was Thinking. Guys, listen, Simon was brought to our network, People of Distinction, today by some of the best movers in the business. Authors Press Publishing. So if you have a book that you'd like moved, make sure you're giving yourself the best gift you could possibly give. You contact Authors Press. You can find out more information on them at authorspress.com. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Simon, first and foremost, welcome to People of Distinction, and thank you so much for being a guest. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Well, listen, it's an absolute honor to have you as a guest with us today, and we're really looking forward to all of the words of wisdom we're going to be able to receive, Simon. Now, before we go into the book, I know it starts off as a memoir, so let's start right there. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and your background, please.
Well, so I was born in Soviet Union in Leningrad. Now it is St. Petersburg, and finished medical school there. After medical school, for 3 years work in up north there as a surgeon, and then came back to Leningrad. Then I emigrated to Israel, and after 3 years was recruited to the United States, to Cleveland, and worked there as a physician anesthesiologist and as a researcher.
There you go. Simon, listen, we're going to have to invite you back onto the network, man, not to discuss this book in more detail or to discuss any other books you write in the future, but just to discuss your background and some of the experiences that you've had, because I'm sure you have stories for days and we would love to hear them. But of course, the anchor for today's interview is all about what I was thinking. So Simon, without further ado, man, tell us a little bit more about your book.
So I was considering writing a book probably about 20 years when I stopped being a chairman of the Department of Anesthesiology. It was already at Harvard in Boston. I was thinking and was actually rejecting this idea periodically. My main problem was that English, you probably can hear it from my accent, it's not my mother tongue. And practically I came to the United States at age 40 without a single word in English. And so this was my main hesitation. I didn't know language well, and I wrote quite a few papers, but they are scientific papers, which is a relatively easy language. And and this was my main concern and my main reason for hesitation. But then my friends convinced me that my life was quite interesting and rich, that I absolutely agreed with that. And I decided, okay, I'll try. I did so many things for the first time. This will be another one.
Well, listen, we're very glad that you did, and we're glad that your friends came through and really helped spur you in that direction, because that's, we're able now to take advantage of the words that you've put to the page. Now, I'm curious, Simon, what were you thinking when you decided to write the story?
Well, that's actually a difficult question. I'm not that sure what I did have in mind. I remember my hesitation that I mentioned to you. Language, knowledge of culture, but it was very difficult for me to become a chairman. To provide medical job, it was relatively easy. I did it for 15, 20 years prior to coming to the United States. So it was not difficult. But to be a chair, this means to be a psychologist a little bit, to know exactly what you want, to be able to formulate it in English, which was not my native language. and to make it clear to people whose English is mother tongue. So these were difficulties, and kind of my thinking was, okay, I did so many things for the first time, it would be another one. And here, the rest is history.
You know, Simon, next question that I'd love to ask, and I think we've already started to go in this direction, so please just add more clarification and compound on the answer that you've already given. But who inspired you to write this story?
Well, actually, my friends, my students, they ask certain questions, and after answering my questions during a cup of coffee or something like this, some of them, one of them would say, why wouldn't you write a book about all this? And it was a question challenging me, and so I stopped being a chairman, meaning had a little bit more time. So I decided to try, and it turned out to be, it was a great pleasure.
And then the next question, let's talk about some of the challenges. Now, you've already stated the language barrier that was already in place because, of course, as you said, English is not your native language. So there were complications and obstacles that you had to overcome with regards to that. But Simon, what were some of the other challenges that you encountered when you wrote this book?
Well, but this challenge is quite funny. Let me give you one example. I'm a resident, I'm on call, I got a page from a surgeon, and he's telling me that tomorrow a VIP is going for surgery, and I was supposed to do something about this. I answered him saying that I know that in our hospital we cannot measure VIP. Not just now I know what VIP is. I can only imagine the complete confusion in the mind of the surgeon who was talking to me, because to him it was a very important person. To me it was vasoactive intestinal polypeptide that I wanted to measure for my research. So, and episodes like this were countless.
Again, here in the line with Simon Gelman. We're discussing his wonderful book, What I Was Thinking. You know, Simon, listen, a curiosity for myself. I know your book covers a lot of aspects, right? It covers a lot of different things and really just thoughts that you have had over the past number of years. Now, one topic that you address in the book is your beliefs with regards to socialism and capitalism. And we know that within pop culture today, that is a very hot topic, okay? In my personal belief, and I know it's conflicting ideologies, but I've always been someone that has been under the belief of, listen, a perfect society, my perfect utopia would be to be able to have a mixture of capitalism and socialism, which, again, I understand are conflicting ideologies. So maybe it wouldn't actually be able to happen. But again, in my perfect world, that is what I envision, is really having a balance between the two. Now, I can go into more reflections. I'm going to hold off for right now. Simon, I'd love to get your point of view, your perspective when it comes to your beliefs with regards to socialism and capitalism.
So actually, my views, and they are in the book, very close to yours. I believe in a mixture of socialistic elements versus capitalistic elements. This is the subject for decision of the people of the country, and depending on history of a nation and the events that happened during this history, people should select what combination of these two they want to have for them. And that's what democratic society would be. But that's ideal, as you mentioned a couple of times. And life is not ideal, and life is not utopia. And so in reality, it becomes quite messy, as democracy is, and that's our life. and that's fine. It's better than any other modality.
Thank you for articulating that, Simon. And again, for me personally, I know it's conflicting ideologies, but being an entrepreneur, and I've been an entrepreneur for a number of years now, of course, I benefit off of a capitalistic system. But also at the same time, I do agree and I understand that, listen, there shouldn't be people like Jeff Bezos who, listen, he earned his money, and I'm just using him as an example right now. There's a lot of other people, of course, that fall into the same bracket. He earned his money. What he has done with Amazon is fantastic, and he deserves to be paid based upon what his contribution and what his company contributes to the world and really to the United States population. But I also don't agree that someone like Jeff Bezos should be taking trips to space for fun when there are so many other people living below the poverty line. That to me doesn't make sense. So again, having a duality between socialism and capitalism and being able to find that balance, which, as you said, is ideal, and we know that the world is not ideal. So it can be a very messy situation, but I love to have that conversation in more detail, and we'll save that for another time, Simon. Listen, another thing that you tackle in the book.
But I can comment on what you said.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Okay. Because it is, you know what, you took the position that you can make decision what is worthwhile to spend money on or not.
Mm-hmm.
And my question to you is, who are you to make this decision? And so with this, your position, you are restricting the freedom of choice.
Well,
So,
that I think.
I am not for.
So, Simon, that's a
Okay,
great.
I'm not for flying. No, I'm not saying that the people should do whatever they want, regardless of consequences and regardless of other options that exist for us. But the problem with this is it limits freedom of choice.
Mm-hmm.
And philosophically, I disagree with this. You should not limit my choice if I do not commit a crime with my choice.
Absolutely. Simon, I completely agree with what you're saying, and I think that's a fantastic point to prove, because from my argument standpoint, you're absolutely right. Then I am impeding upon your liberties and your freedoms that you have as just a human being. So I absolutely agree with that. And that's the reason why the conversation is messy, right? That's the reason why the conversation is difficult to have, because yes, I agree, you should have the opportunity and the freedom to choose what you want to do with your money. I guess my main argument is, hey, rather than Jeff Bezos being a multi-billionaire, maybe it'd be better suited if he was a multi-millionaire, right? And then that excess money is now being spread around to other communities that don't have a lot of opportunities awarded to them or have certain restrictions in their path. And again, I understand that becomes a very messy conversation. And that's why, to me, it's fascinating. I could sit here and I could talk to you about hours with that, man. I think that's a great point that you bring up. And it really is something that's worth a lot more exploration. So thank you for taking that standpoint and really playing devil's advocate, right? Because again, I think we both ultimately believe in the same thing. We just have different paths that we would ultimately have to take to get to that point.
Hello.
Simon, next question that I want to get into, because I know another part of your book and another concept that your book discusses is the relationship dynamic between patients and physicians. So multi-part question here, but first and foremost, based upon your own background and your own experience, what was your experience with regards to patients that you had? And also, what do you think physicians and patients and what that relationship dynamic should look like?
Oh, it's a very difficult question. And I can tell you, watching and knowing a little bit what's happening in the world in different countries in this regard, I can tell you there are no ideal medical service in any country. So somehow it becomes limited. And the question how society limits the medical care. And let us say in Western Europe, and in Canada, for example, Canada, it's best illustration I can make. about 300 people are coming to Seattle in the United States from Canada, from Vancouver, to have cardiac surgery. Why? Canadian surgeons are not worse than American surgeons. No, because there are lines and they're waiting. There are limitations. How many cardiac cases one or another hospital can do or should do. And therefore, when this limit is reached, that's it, you are out of luck. And you go, so lines, this is one of the instruments to limit medical care. It doesn't go very often, it doesn't go consciously, it just happens this way. But that's what it happened. Mm-hmm. Let us say there is a story, history rather, about managed care in the United States. It was not managed care, it was managed budget in terms of care. And what happened, it started in California in the United States. And they were just postponing surgery because medical care payment was based on how close to the minimum limit physicians' organizations were. And therefore, let us say you need total hip replacement. Okay, you will have it, but you will have it in 2 years. Okay, if you don't want to wait, or you are whatever condition is, so what can you do? You go to private market and you pay in addition to insurance or any other instrument that can develop. In Soviet Union, they were illegal instruments according to Soviet law, but without this you would die. And therefore you bribe a medical establishment and you will get a physician and you will get your surgery faster. If you do not do this, you will get it in a month, in 2 months, and so on. So let us say one of the best medical care in Europe, that's probably in Germany. And there are lines there. There are waiting lists of waiting for something. So therefore, the relationship between physician and patient, they are partially spoiled by limitations. But not only. The relationship have some philosophical difference. For example, in Soviet Union, I, as a physician, we were educated in a way that, let's say, patient has cancer, and you, physician, shouldn't tell them because it is like a death penalty for something you are not guilty. And therefore, physicians, we were lying to patients, saying, well, you have an ulcer, they will treat you, it will be better, and then it will go away, and so on, knowing that it wouldn't go away. In the United States, it was probably one of the features that was most difficult for me to learn, is no, you say the patient everything. Absolutely. And to my great surprise, patients who would have diagnosis cancer, they wouldn't go hysterical. They would just listen carefully what can be done, what should be done. And it took me a couple of years probably to accept this behavior, this policy completely, because it is the best possible policy in many other aspects. So partially, I guess, this Soviet-Russian way of dealing with the problem was because the medical care was poor, and therefore, well, you should help the patient any way you can, including lying. And we were actually proud of ourselves when we were lying. We felt like we would take a burden on having this diagnosis on our shoulder instead of leaving it to the patient consciousness.
Guys, I love this. You got to pick up the book, okay? You have to pick up the book. And what I love so much about this is Simon is not saying one thing or the other, right? He's not saying something that you should do or something that he believes people should do. He's solely pointing out his experience and his thought process behind things, and it generates conversation. So you know what you have to do. What I Was Thinking is the title you have to pick up, and Simon Gelman is the author you have to thank for bringing this wonderful narrative to your table. You surely will not be disappointed. A great piece to have in your living room, to have in your shelves, a wonderful gift to get for someone else. But the conversations that it's going to spark between you and those around you is truly where the power of the book lies. At the end of the day, he's not saying one thing or the other. It's just about opening your mind and having the conversation. I love that, because I think as a society, we've limited the conversations that we've had, and that has led to some pretty dangerous outcomes. So you know what you have to do. Pick up your copy today. You surely will not be disappointed. Simon, this has been an absolute honor. Thank you once again for being a guest with us on People of Distinction.
Okay, have fun reading it. Be well.